Hello, word lovers, and welcome to Hello Word. I'm your host, Alex, and I'm thrilled you're joining me today for another exciting exploration into the English language. Today, our word of the day is confusing. What does it mean? How do we use it? Let's dive in. Confusing is an adjective, and it means hard to understand, not clear. It describes something that makes you feel puzzled or uncertain. Think of a time when you were reading instructions that seemed to make no sense, or perhaps a mathematical equation that just wouldn't click. That feeling of being lost or unsure is exactly what confusing captures. We use it all the time in everyday language to describe things that bewilder us. For example, the instructions for assembling this furniture are incredibly confusing, or I found the plot of the movie really confusing. I couldn't follow what was happening. Now, let's explore some synonyms of confusing, words that have similar meanings. One great synonym is puzzling. You could say, the detective found the evidence puzzling. Nothing seemed to add up. Another synonym is perplexing. For instance, the professor's lecture on quantum physics was rather perplexing for the undergraduate students. We can also use the word bewildering. An example of this is, the amount of information available online can be bewildering. It's hard to know what's true and what's not. Furthermore, baffling is another excellent synonym. A sentence using it could be, the disappearance of the airplane is baffling to investigators. They have no leads. Another option is unclear, which is quite straightforward. We can say, the company's policy on remote work is unclear. Nobody knows what the rules are. Now, let's flip the coin and look at antonyms, words with the opposite meaning of confusing. The most obvious antonym is clear. For example, the instructions were very clear. I assembled the furniture in under an hour. Another antonym is understandable. You could say, her explanation of the theory was understandable. I finally grasped the concept. We can also use the word obvious. As an example, the solution to the problem was obvious once I saw the hint. Another antonym is straightforward. An example of this is, the process for applying for the visa was surprisingly straightforward. I had no problems. Finally, we have unambiguous. For instance, the contract was written in unambiguous language. There was no room for misinterpretation. So, how do we use confusing in everyday life? Well, imagine you're trying to navigate a new city. You might say, these street signs are so confusing. I'm completely lost. Or perhaps you're trying to learn a new skill. You might remark, learning to play the guitar is proving to be quite confusing. I can't seem to coordinate my hands. Common expressions involving confusing might include, I find his behavior incredibly confusing. I can't figure him out, or the situation is getting more and more confusing. I don't know what to believe. Let's look at a few more examples of confusing in sentences and phrases. The teacher's explanation of the grammar rule was so confusing that none of the students understood it. Another example is, I found the tax forms extremely confusing. I had to hire an accountant to help me. We can also say, the directions to the restaurant were confusing, but we eventually found it. Or, the news report was confusing and filled with jargon. Another example, it's confusing why she changed her mind so suddenly. Think about this phrase. The rules of the game are a bit confusing at first, but you'll get the hang of it. And another, the plot twist in the movie was intentionally confusing to keep the audience guessing. To recap, confusing means hard to understand, and we've explored synonyms like puzzling, perplexing, bewildering, baffling, and unclear. We've also looked at antonyms such as clear, understandable, obvious, straightforward, and unambiguous. Remember to use these words in your daily conversations to expand your vocabulary and become more fluent in English. Thank you for joining me on Hello Word today. I hope you found this episode helpful and not too, confusing. If you enjoyed this episode, Please subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Your support helps others find the show, and it means the world to me. Now for your challenge. I encourage you to create your own sentence using the word confusing and share it as a comment under this video. I can't wait to see what you come up with. Until next time, keep exploring the wonderful world of words.
Goodbye.